rise. And now, to honor America, please join in the singing of our national anthem. Representing the three-time Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils, Arlette.
I feel like I'm at a game. Oh my gosh. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Hi, this is Chico Resch. You are listening to the Let's Go Devils podcast on the Primetime Radio Network.
Happy Devils Sunday. This is the Let's Go Devils podcast. I forget what Sam normally says. Beer Baron and I probably should have discussed this beforehand. So this is the Let's Go Devils podcast powered by Primetime Radio Network. Available all those places, the social media stuff, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. My cat's here to help me out, but I'm not going to much assistance here. Man, you know what? I should probably pay more attention in the pre-podcast meetings. Maybe I'll get a clue what to do. So, Beer Baron, how you doing? We had some good stuff last night.
Yeah, buddy. I'm feeling pretty good. Can't say the same for our friends across the river, but I'm feeling pretty good. The long-suffering nightmare of the New York Rangers playoff run is finally over.
Yep.
I will say this. The only good thing that came from it was that it kept hockey in the local spotlight for a little bit longer.
Yes.
And it brought more attention to it brings more attention to the game, brings more attention to the local teams and things like that. So, okay, great. But I'm so glad it's over. I don't have to think about them. I don't have to worry about them actually making a serious run. And feels good. Feels really good.
Yeah, no, I would agree. My hope is that maybe with the Rangers' success, that it'll force us to have to do better. In almost like the ownership looking at what the Rangers did, looking at the success they had, and then saying, hey, we don't want to get left behind. However, as much as I say that with hope, I do know that for the most part, our ownership group looks at us as numbers, so I don't have much hope that it's gonna spur them, but hey, maybe they'll prove me wrong.
I'll tell you what, I know we can talk a little bit more about this into the show, but there's been a plethora of rumors, everybody from Gaudreau to what the heck is his name from Chicago, Brinkett. So there's a lot of talk about the Devils making some serious moves in free agency, some serious trades to get a high scoring winger, which would be great. We have the space.
That's the big thing.
We have the space and we have the assets. That's the other thing too.
Yeah.
They have that second overall pick, yeah, and maybe we'll just jump into it right now because we'll talk about the Stanley Cup in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll finish
But
off with that.
so I was looking at this, and there's a lot of people that are like freaking out, like, why would you give up the second overall? Blah 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 blah. And I think we talked about this weeks ago, where we're saying the only reason you give it up is you're giving it up for a proven commodity. You're going to give it up for a guy that's already established as a star or somebody that is on the rise to be a star. And I think if they get, if they get certain players if they get like a Kachuk or they get a DeBrincat for the second overall plus whatever they have to throw into to sweeten that deal, I think it's worth it because you're getting somebody that's he's a 2-time 40-goal scorer. And I think he's scored, and every year he's been in the NHL at least 30 plus. So now you're getting a dude that can actually, can score. He's on the young side. I think he's only 22 to 24 years old, somewhere like that. So the intangibles that, fits the mold of the rest of the team being very young, and it gives you more options. So you bring in a scoring winger, which is a need that team needs, and then there you go. And then you can move into free agency and you can see what else you can get. But it depends on how much it costs him, I guess.
Yeah, and the offers are going to come in. But that also says if offers are coming in, I just have to take a picture of this. If offers are coming in, that's got a lot of that should also say a lot about what's available early on in the draft for everyone to want if people are offering for the number 2. So that has to be taken into account as well. The one thing I do trust, and I've said this over and over again, the one thing I do trust is I do trust how this front office scouts the talent in the draft. They've always been spot on since the Nico Hischier draft, when we had that first overall with him. They made the right decision there, and I believe they've made, for the most part, pretty solid decisions.
Some might say Cal McCarr might be a little bit better than Nico in that spot, but I agree. I think
at the time, though, but that's the thing with the draft. You don't know. Was McCarr slated to be as good as he is? That's the thing with the draft, and that kind of speaks to why maybe you would move that second overall pick, because you don't know. Because that's a perfect example. We went with Hischier. It was either Hischier or Patrick. I think Hischier's been very good for us. Patrick's been to this point, and it could change, but he's been a bust because of his injury issues. And then here's McCarr just ripping it up. It's like you never know with those things, with some of these players you can draft. So that's one of those hindsight 2020 things.
Yeah.
So,
and like you said, you could redraft every draft every year, with the exception of a few, like a McDavid. He was hopefully looking like he's like the right choice at number 1 overall. But I mean, yeah, you could redraft every year and come up with a different choice. But yeah, I agree.
That's you go all the way back to the Brodeur draft. Calgary traded up to get Trevor Kidd, and we took Brodeur. It's like if we were to redraft that, you don't think Calgary would have drafted Brodeur over Kidd? Absolutely,
no.
They'd be stupid,
it's crazy
to not do that. So it's you could redraft, and that's why if people want to offer, and again, we've said this before on the podcast, the phone lines have to be open. You got to hear these offers out, see what they're going to offer for number 2, and then go with it. That's out of our hands. That's out of our control.
I think everything has to be on the table for them to better the team. Like whatever you could do to make this team more competitive. And listen, there's people that don't want to give up on Holtz. There's a lot of people that don't want to give up like certain pieces to this team. But the reality is, if you could take those assets and change it into a team that's going to be competitive for a good stretch, you don't want to. You're not trying to build for a team that's going to be competing for a Stanley Cup next year, because that's unrealistic. But you do want to put pieces in place that you're going to be a contender and you're going to be making the playoffs, and you start to build that foundation. I hate to say it, but if you look at what happened across the river, they do have an amazing team, And they do have a team that, if everything goes right, they're going to be a contender for a good long time. They have a very strong defensive core. They have an incredible goaltender. They have, the right pieces in place. I mean, Gallant, I think he's overrated as a coach. I think he makes some very questionable moves. What are you going to say about that?
I'll let you finish because I have a theory on what's going to happen to Gallant in about 2 years. So
yeah, run himself out of town.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I mean, but you look at what they did to build that team, and I feel like if we follow a similar path, I think the Devils would be fine. They already have a lot of core pieces in place. They just need to. Yes. I think this summer we say it every year, like, oh, this summer is going to be the summer, but I really do feel like this summer has the potential of being a franchise-altering summer where they could make some moves and put some pieces in and set this team up for the long haul.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is we're not the Coyotes. We're just a train wreck. The ups and downs of this season at least showed us that there's something there. Just a matter of getting the final pieces and the consistency, and then answering the questions this summer. I mean, obviously, one of the biggest questions is a goaltender. Who's going to be the goaltender? Yeah. Are we going to bring one in? Are we going to rely on who we got? Which, who the hell knows whose net it is at this point. That's the one thing that they have not done well. But we are a couple moves away from going in the absolute right direction, and I think we are very slowly going in the right direction. It's just a couple moves, and we can speed that up. I mean, the Rangers sucked not too long ago, and then here they are making it to the Eastern Conference Finals, which for the for our listening public out there, don't really worry about next year, because Gallant will not achieve this next year, and then by year number 3, he'll be run out of town. So don't worry about that. I actually told someone today, like, don't even. You're not even going to get close to that next year. So
it's funny though, because some people will be like, "Oh, you're wrong," and it'd be like, "Look at his track record." I mean,
it's three and out everywhere.
Three
he goes.
and out. Yeah, he gets a team to a certain point, but just can't get him over that hill, and then they tire of his ways. Like, last night, I think when somebody from the media was like, "Hey, why did you scratch Kakko?" And he's like, "I don't have to answer that." Now, some people get pissed off at that, and they're like, "Yeah, you kind of have to have an answer for it, because, like, why would you do something like that?" And then other people are like, "Who cares? It was his decision. It's whatever." But in all honesty, like, it just seems like there's certain coaches that overthink situations, and he always felt like that kind of coach. Like, he overthinks the situation, or he tries to manipulate the lineup way too much. When you have that one line, the kid line for them, which was playing outstanding. And to break it up, and then to healthy scratch, one of your former second overall picks, it just didn't make a lot of sense. But anyways, enough about those bozos. I'm really hoping that the Stanley Cup Finals is not Game 7. I hope it kind of like goes through the course of. I want the Avalanche to win. Because
so do I.
Just like most people, unless you're a Tampa fan, like, I'm kind of sick and tired of seeing Tampa win and hearing the Pat Maroon story and all that kind of crap. So I would love to see the Avalanche win in 4 or 5, get the series done with, because then that means hopefully because the Devils have been so quiet that my hope is that, like, once we get past Stanley Cup Finals, you give it a week or so, and then news will start to roll in, like, what's going on with the coaching staff? What's going on with Jesper Bratt? Like, all these other unanswered questions. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm hoping it's quick.
See, I'm hoping the opposite. I'm hoping for a good long series with a lot of good competitive hockey. Maybe an overtime or 2, especially since. So Game 1 is Wednesday. I have not even looked at the schedule. Let me take a look at the schedule. So Game 1 is Wednesday, so that'll be fun. I'm definitely not going to care about going to sleep that night. So if game 1's Wednesday, game 2's got to be Friday unless they have it on Saturday. Here we go. Let's see. Wednesday. So yeah, it looks like game 1 is Wednesday, game 2 Friday, game 3. Okay, so that's great. So after game 2, I really don't care how many overtimes it goes into. I'll stay up and watch all of them because I don't really care anymore about going to bed. So I really would love to see like some
Yeah,
epic
that's true.
3-4 overtime. I'm really kind of hoping for like a really. I know we're not going to see out of these two teams, but I wouldn't mind seeing a series that was to get a little nasty because I was wholly disappointed in that battle for Alberta was way too calm and tame. Yeah,
Yep.
granted there were a couple games where there was like a bazillion goals throughout the game, but I was really hoping for a little bit more animosity between the teams. So hopefully that happens in the series. I'm not expecting it, but hey, you never know. But yeah, you're right. I mean, just looking at the calendar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. So the game 7, the latest it can go would be the 28th of June, and then like almost immediately within a week is the draft. So we should start hearing news at some point there after the 28th.
Yeah. It's so if free agency is what, the July 2nd this year, and then the
Probably that
draft
Saturday.
is July 7th. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going to become quick. You're going to have a ton of things that are going to happen, hopefully within that week span. That's going to be a fun week. That's going to be a hell of a lot of fun, because if the Devils are as active as like, and it's not just like one or two, professional writers that are pontificating on the fact that the Devils are going to be making some noise in the offseason. There's like multiple, outlets that are saying it kind of like all over the place. And usually where there's smoke, there's fire. Like last year, there was a lot of clamor about the Devils going hot and heavy after Dougie Hamilton, and then sure enough, it was true.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that that's what's going on. I'm hoping that they're done trying to save cap space, and they realize like, listen, you got to make money. You got to spend money to make money. If you spend money on this team, you'll bring more fans in because then they'll be winning, and if they're winning, you're making more money. I thought that was kind of common sense, but then again, I'm not an owner of a professional sports team.
Yeah, it's common sense to you or I. But we also care about the team, whereas our ownership, that's pretty questionable if they do or not. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, dude, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, you're right on that fact that we just got to start. We have to start making these moves now, because I think waiting any longer, we're definitely going to be missing windows of players' prime years.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to definitely start making some moves. We gotta, and again, I really do hope that the success of the jerks across the river spurs our front office into being like, hey, yeah, we got to keep up with these clowns. I mean, because the Islanders were also, this season was a clunker for the most part.
Yeah, but 2 years in a row prior, yeah.
I know, and that's what I was going to get to. It's like you have both, both other local teams are doing well, and we're not.
Mm-hmm.
We're basically the inexpensive place for those fan bases to come watch a game when they come into town. Yeah. That's what we've turned into, which is a sad reality. So we need to start doing better so that we can change that. So let's just hope that they do start to splash that cash and to use that cap space, but use it wisely. Don't just go chasing whatever star because it's it's whoever. Which also means that they're going to need to solidify who they want as their coaching staff as well. Like who's going to work with what system, with who brings in, whoever's the coach. If it's Lindy Ruff, well, then they're going to have to work within the Ruff system. But, if it's going to be someone new, you want to bring in someone that's going to work with whatever system we're using, just so that it's a worthwhile, signing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing too, is, if they do go after Gaudreau, and that's that ends up being a player that they're kind of coveting right now. If they do go out and they bring him in, at what cost is it going to be? Like, where do you draw the line? If it's going to cost you like $10 million a season, like, is that are you? Like, granted, he's coming off of an amazing season, but I mean, is that something that you want to pay somebody $10 million a year for the next 7 to 8 years to try to see if he can replicate it? It's got to be worth it. And then, like, if they do get him, here's another just like a silly kind of side note thing. What number is he going to wear? He's not going to wear 13. So that's always fun. I always find it interesting when a player has a well-established name and number somewhere else, and like they come to a team and there's already somebody there with that number. So I doubt Nico would give up 13.
No, nor should he. Nor should he. You know, it's
100%.
Is it weird that as much as great as Goudreau would be on our team, the fact that he's probably a Flyer fan for where he grew up, I'm kind of like,
Oh, he 100% is. He's openly admit that.
All right. Yeah. So part of me it would be great to sign him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, but I'm like, but he's a Flyers fan.
Yeah, but I mean, but he wouldn't be like he wouldn't be pulling shifts, you know, like against the Flyers to like help them win or anything like that. But it was like Palmieri when Palmieri came in. He came to the Devils. He was admittedly a Ranger fan growing up, but you know, converted himself and his family into Devils fans. So
yeah,
I mean, who knows? Now they're probably all Islander fans, obviously, but. I don't care. I just want them to make smart moves that are not going to also like smart moves that are going to be good for right now, that have a severe impact in the team right now, that don't handcuff us later down the road. You know, where we're like looking down the barrel, like, oh man, well, I guess we're going to have to like look at the Chicago Blackhawks. They won 3 cups, but they also they paid the devil for it at the moment. You know what I mean? So like they put all their eggs in the basket, and they had to get rid of guys like Panarin, and they had to get rid of, you know, certain guys because they couldn't afford to keep them anymore, because they paid their stars to, you know, to win championships. And that's what you got to do. But at the same time, you want to be able to, like, once that run starts to peter away, you want to be able to keep yourself relevant and sustainable.
Oh, that'll be the Lightning in about 2-3 years. Maybe a little bit longer
100%.
than that, but that'll eventually be the Lightning, because they're, you know, the cost of winning the cup is you get the last overall pick, and you know, sometimes, you know, you're making trades to bring in rentals, and you're trading that first round pick because it is so terrible, you know, which essentially is like an early second round pick. So eventually the Lightning are going to have to they're going to pay that price. Maybe they'll manage it better, you know. Who knows? I mean, we had all those years of success and still finishing, you know, top of the league, and you know, going out, you know, making deep runs in the playoffs, and we still, you know, were relatively consistent from, you know, 94 until 2012. So that's really not a bad run at all. So you know, maybe a little bit longer than, you know, what I just said for the Lightning, but eventually the Lightning will be in that position. You know, because Chicago still had a good run of years. Even after winning the cup, they still had a really good run of years. It's just now that's eventually does catch up with your team, especially in a salary, you know, with the salary cap. It's not like you can just keep bringing, you know, buying players, bringing them in. It's eventually you pay that price. You know, and which is a great problem to have, because you're winning championships, and you know, you're bringing success to your franchise. But eventually it does catch up with you, and you kind of have to go through a reset. You know, every team's got to do it.
Yeah.
So, and we'll hopefully be in that same problem at some point as well.
Yeah. Going back to we're in a rebuild again? Like, oh man, what was that like? And I hope I'm in my like 60s when I'm saying that, where I'm like, oh man.
Wow.
Crazy.
Not too far away from that.
Not at all, considering I'm turning 40 next week, or this week rather, and then yeah, that's like right around the corner.
Yeah, it's you. So wait, just on a side note, on that side note, so it's you this coming week, and then me, and then from and then it's the guys from Hockey on Tap. They're all turning 40 as well.
It's sad. It's very sad.
Yeah, but you know
I
what
was
though?
looking
Like,
at
it's like I always tell people, I'm like, but do I act like I'm 40? No, not a chance at all.
no. Mentally, I'm like 15, 16, somewhere around there. Physically, like I'd say I'm probably about my age, but yeah,
No way. Physically, I'm
I
still
don't
in
act
in
like
my
I'm 40.
20s.
Well, good for you. I'm trying to work. I'm working my way back. At one point, I was like physically in my 50s or 60s, and now I'm trying to get myself back in shape and get back into
There you go.
at least my 30s. But yeah, like the whole point is like the team, like what they're doing right now is like hopefully Fitzgerald is looking at everything he's got, all the options that he has. Like you said, they have cap room, they have flexibility. There was even talks like bringing back PK Subban. I'm like, dude, yeah, sure. If you can bring him back at like a discount price and he's, your bottom pairing defenseman, that's fine. He brings a great energy to the room. He brings, veteran leadership to the team. So if you can get him at a good price, because I'm not paying him $9 million a year, hell no.
No,
But if you get him like
he's past
$4,
I
wonder what he would
I don't
take.
even know if I would go 4. I'm sure someone out there would pay for him. I heard Buffalo was rumored to potentially be wanting him.
Which is where his brother is.
But yeah, so that would be kind of cool, and I could see that. And if that's where he wants to go because he wants to play with his brother, that's whatever. Go ahead, go sign him. You're a free agent. I'm with you. For a discount, I would definitely take him back. I think just like you're thinking, like he's a good character guy in the locker room. He's a good veteran. I mean, we have so much youth. We have to have some kind of veteran leadership. So it really wouldn't be bad if it was at a discount. I'd be all for it. Whether or not he wants to sign for a bit of a discount, or maybe have it incentive laden, so maybe it'll prevent him from, let's face it, he does some dumb things sometimes. Give him reason to want to, succeed, which I know he wants to succeed, but incentives would be fine. But I would not be against him coming back, but I know there's a lot of Devils fans that would be against him coming back. I'd be all for it for the right price, obviously. But yeah, they just gotta be smart with what they do with their money this summer.
Yeah, you don't want to mortgage the future to try to like be like, oh, we could be competitive this year. It's like, no, that's not the point. You want to be competitive for multiple years.
The Islanders did that.
100%. Because they were, to their credit, they were close. They were so close.
They were close, but then they mortgaged the future on older talent, and it didn't work. Their window closed this year with not making the playoffs. Yeah. Their window's closed. They're gonna that's gonna be a whole big rebuild, especially like going into a new building, which kind of sucks. It's that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to mortgage the future like that.
They were right in that spot, and like you feel bad. I was talking to an Islander fan recently, and I was like, you know what? The Islanders to me have always been like, I've never had like a disdain for the Islanders. Like I do for the I have disdain for the Rangers and the Flyers. Like those are my two least favorite organizations in the entire world. But like the Islanders always kind of like, whatever, because we always had like common ground. Like we were always like the, second fiddle to the Rangers. You always hate the Rangers. Yep. And it's like it's not even like a kind of like, no, it's like we both despise the Rangers, but and I've never had like, I've been to Devils Islander games. I've never had an issue with any, even like when we lost, like walking out of the building.
Even going there.
Yeah.
Going away. It's like, it's not a problem.
Yeah, I've never had an issue with any Islander fan. Maybe one or two here and there, but not really. But you feel bad for them because, like, in that first run, you were like, "Oh man, this team they're pretty solid and they're set up. Like, they're pretty set up that they could be back next year." And sure enough, they were. But then, like you said, you bring in all this like these older guys like trying to recapture something like a Zach Parise and things like that, and it just didn't work out. But now you have like an older core, and it's just gonna, like you said, you're gonna have a massive rebuild. So like, what Ranger fans are thinking right now, they're like, oh man, we're gonna be back next year. We're gonna probably go to the Cup Finals. Like, it's not that easy. Like Tampa Bay is making it look easy because they're unbelievably stacked. Like that team, they hit on so many different areas, and they're so lucky. Whoever does, the structuring of all their contracts, their GM is a genius, because how you can have a Hedman, a Kucherov, a Stamkos.
Yzerman, isn't it?
Is he still there? I thought he went back to Detroit.
I don't know. Schwinn would know, but he's not here. I'll ask Schwinn tomorrow.
I know he was the architect to get them to where they are, but yeah, I think he went back to Detroit. But but yeah, dude, you look at that, and it's like that. It doesn't really happen. Like you can't just bank on the fact like, oh, we're young and we're talented. You're an injury away from never seeing the postseason again.
Yep. I mean,
or ever getting out of the first round.
Well, I mean, the best example were that one game against that one game when we destroyed the Rangers. Shesterkin had a bad game, or even any time that Shesterkin had a bad game. Sorry, my friend Matt commented on the in the Facebook group saying I can't ever hide the disdain for the Rangers. No, Matt, you know that. I know I can't. We've had this discussion. But I mean, the games that Shesterkin did not play well, the Rangers did not play well. And Shesterkin is a fantastic goalie, and you got to give the credit where credit's due. The Rangers did what we needed to do and could not do, and we royally screwed up, which has set us back. The Rangers transitioned successfully from Lundqvist to Shesterkin with very little gap in between, and their goaltending is spot on. I hate to give them credit, so here you go, Matt. If you're still listening, I give them some credit. They've got their goaltending spot on, because Georgiev seemed to be like the bridge guy, and then Shesterkin came in. It's his show. So there's been no drop off in goaltending for the most part with the Rangers, which is where we have yet to figure out a successor to Brodeur 10 years later. We have yet to have consistent success in goaltending 10 years after 2012, which is what I'm considering when it ended. So that's that. I got to give credit where that's due, but their team still needs to build a little bit, because when Shesterkin did not play well, it was not good. So you're right. It's an injury away, an injury away, a suspension away from disaster.
And that's not to like take a dump all over them. Like, that's not just taking like a cheap shot. It's true. You look at certain teams, that made runs that got real close, not just in hockey, in like any sport. You get certain teams that they have sustainable success, and they can go on these long runs, and they can win championship after championship. But you have to look at the structure of the team. You look at the coach. John Cooper is one hell of a coach.
Yes,
somebody like a Bill Belichick is a hell of a coach. I mean, they're able to adjust. They're able to make in-game, little tweaks to what's going on in the game within the game and all that kind of stuff. And there's a reason that they are, where they are. But you get teams that flare up, they get real hot, they go on a deep run, and then poof, they don't make it to the playoffs for another 5 to 10 years. Now, do I think that that's their fate? Not really, because I feel like they do have a good core to a team, but at the same time, it's so unpredictable. Like even the Islanders this year, going into this year, there was a lot of people that thought that they were a serious contender for the Cup, but the wheels fell off of that wagon. Woof. I mean,
and they
in the worst kind of way.
They fell off. Yeah.
They fell off, rolled down the street into the river. I mean, not getting them back.
It's the horse track over there. It's not the river.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but on the positive, it's, for us, it's a couple moves away. and we could be right there in that conversation. And what is Sam been preaching? 2025, something like that. And we may not have the best season, but I expect for next season to have an improvement over this for sure. Depending especially on what we do over the summer.
Depending on a coach.
Depending on a coach. And again, this is all stuff that should be figured out hopefully within the next 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks. Hold on, let me rephrase it so I can say it properly. Yeah. It'll about a week and a half. We will hopefully be hearing news.
That's. I mean, you would assume that they already have certain things in place, and maybe they're just holding it, holding on to it because they don't want to give away. They don't want to take. I know certain people are. It's like an old school mentality. Like we don't like to announce certain things, during the playoffs or during the Stanley Cup Finals because you don't want to draw attention to your team when you're, everybody
it might be a league mandate too. I really don't know.
It could be because you'll hear about firings, but I don't. Have there been any
firings
and, of
and
certain hirings?
And you're hearing injury reports with long term and surgeries and stuff like that. I've heard a lot of that. Like the Bruins are going to be screwed for the beginning of next season. But
they're talking about a full blow up.
Oh yeah, they're potentially. Hey, you know
that
what?
was another name. I mean, Pastrnak was a name that was floated for the Devils.
But there is another example. A team that had a long run of success. And now you're seeing the downfall of that success. So the Bruins are going to be going through it as well. It's just a matter of how quickly you pull yourself out of this and who you buy and bring in to do that. No, Matt, they did not fire Ruff yet. We have no news on the coaching staff.
They're still evaluating.
Yes, they're still evaluating, and they said that Ruff is part of the picture or something like that, whatever that quote was. Yeah, they said Ruff was still part of it or whatever the hell they said. I can't remember at this point.
It's crazy to think about this too, though, because the Devils could be getting good at the perfect time. So you look at the teams. You look at Pittsburgh, Boston, Washington, the teams that have been dominant in the Eastern Conference for the last 10, 15 years, that have had a stranglehold on these playoff positions. Are going to start to wean them, there's huge transition that's going to happen in Pittsburgh soon because a lot of their guys are getting older and getting towards the end of the road. So now you have a window that's going to close on a bunch of teams, and you have a window that could possibly be opening for the Devils, unfortunately for the Rangers, but this is a good time to start getting better. Because now you're going to have before it was like, no way you're getting past Washington. No way you're getting past Pittsburgh. So there goes like the two spots in the Metro. Like now there's that opportunity is actually real.
It is real. But for those teams like Pittsburgh and Washington, the allure of going there, I think will keep free agents wanting to go there and will keep them successful. Same thing for Boston. I don't think that they're going to be down and out. I mean, Chicago, we're seeing something with them, but, it depends on how long they're going to be down and out because Chicago is still a very, appealing place to go and play. So it may be a short window of time where we're going to have to really kind of kick it into gear to get a leg up and then be, in the mix with all these teams. But, those teams have solidified themselves as successes and destination places where players want to go play because of it. So if this window is opening and this is going to happen, it's going to be a short window to get it done and get it done right so that when those other teams do bulk back up, we're right there with them being competitive, and then we're really duking it out for these playoff spots, and it's not just automatic, but there's competition across the board for them, which would be fantastic. So we'll see, but we just have to be smart with what we do. We got to be smart with what we bring in, who we bring in, and we need a damn goalie.
Yeah, for real. And it's like, I know some people are like, a goaltender is not the final answer. I'm like, it's a pretty damn big piece of the puzzle. Like, you can't deny the fact that like it is it is not going to solve everything for this team. But I think there's a stat that said the Devils lost, I think it was 11 games last year that were a direct result of the goaltender. And I'd have to look at their final numbers. Hold on. Let me pull that up while I'm trying to talk amongst yourselves.
I mean, no, it's a goalie can make all the difference in the world. I mean, I was looking. There were some stats last night about Vasilevsky and the way that he is in a clenching game, and it's almost unfair with how good Vasi is when he has an opportunity to win a series. Like, it's just stupid. He's here it is. So in the last 8 series clenching wins for Vasilevsky, if you think that goaltending is not the biggest thing, so in the last 8 series clenching wins, his goals against average is .25. That's his goals against average. His save percentage is .991. And he has 6 shutouts in those 8 series clinching wins. So right there, that could be the difference between you winning and losing a series is your goaltending. And then, again, I hate to bring them up, but you look at the Rangers, and Shesterkin did so well for them this season. Up for the Vezina. He was even up for the Hart, if I'm not correct, or if I'm not mistaken. Or he was in the conversation for the Hart. I can't remember at this point. I try to tune him out. But, having that goaltender there that you can rely on is huge. Just from being in that position myself, knowing that your teammates rely on you and know that your teammates have the comfort to go out and do what they need to do on the ice, knowing that should they screw up, you're there to make it right. And just having that, it's huge. It's just everyone likes to focus on, goals scored, but the goaltending is huge. But most of our listeners know that because we've talked about that for so long that we just need this goalie, and we all harp on that goaltending is huge, especially myself. But for anyone that thinks that goaltending isn't as important, it's incorrect. I mean, you can get far with mediocre goalie. Example, Edmonton. However, when you have example Edmonton, you can get far with a mediocre goalie. However, if you looked at that series-ending game against Colorado, Mike Smith let in really classic Mike Smithy goals in order for them to lose that series. You have, could you imagine an Oilers team with Vasilevsky in net, or an Oilers team with someone like Shesterkin in net? Someone that can just keep that. I mean, granted, their defense is not fantastic either, but when you're scoring in bunches, Mike Smith is the perfect goalie for that team because they can score a bazillion goals to make up for the bazillion he's to counteract the bazillion he's gonna let in. But that right there is an example of why you need solid goaltending, because that team should be unstoppable. However, Mike Smith prevents that from happening.
And they've been looking. They've had Talbot there. They've had multiple goaltenders come in, and multiple goaltenders that are not that terrible. Like Talbot, I think he's a pretty serviceable goaltender.
Yeah.
But you have, you're 100% right. If they had a top 5 goalie in Edmonton, they would be walking away with the cup without even a question. Their defense isn't that horrible. They're a wide open team. So they're obviously everybody knows McDavid, Draisaitl, these guys they want the ice to be wide open, and they want to be able to go out there and fly up and down and score a bunch of goals. But yeah, if they had a good goaltender, my God, that team would be unstoppable.
Which is why you need a fantastic goaltender in that situation, because those guys are going to be so wide open. Their thought is offense, and defense is the last thing. You need a goaltender that can deal with things like odd man rushes, 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s, 2-on-0s, breakaway. Because when you're going offense, like they tend to do,
you're going to give up chances.
You're going to give up chances, and those are the saves you need your goalie to make, and Mike Smith can't do that. So there's your example of, if you want to know why goaltending is important, look at the Oilers. And it's not that I don't like Mike Smith, because I find him very entertaining to watch. He's got a very odd style. He's an awkward style of goaltender, and he's fantastic with the puck. When he's not passing it to the wrong person, but he plays the puck very well. That's always been one characteristic of him, is he plays the puck very, very well. So I do like Mike Smith. He's not the caliber of goaltender that's going to be needed for them to win. And there's your example of why you need a good, solid goalie.
Yeah. And I feel like if the Devils get a decent goaltender where, and by the way, I was looking it up. If they would have won 11 games, as opposed to losing those 11 games, they would have been right at like the Blue Jackets and Islanders level, which would have been about 500, NHL 500. So you're not looking at a team that's like competing for a playoff spot, but you're looking at a hell of a lot better, development.
Yeah, you're not getting
position.
second overall pick with those numbers.
Exactly. And I mean,
you're not a second overall pick team.
I
You're
love the fact that they have the second. Yeah, you have a second overall pick is great, fantastic, but I'm over looking at the top of the draft because we never. By the way, we never get like Hughes. I think we got. Thank God we got that one. But there's been drafts where the McDavid draft or things like that. So next year is going to be the Bedard draft, and I don't
want to be in for him.
I don't want to be in for him either. I'm tired of this.
Yeah, I want us to not have any chance of having Bedard on this team.
No.
But not to say that if we were in that position, I wouldn't take him. Obviously, I would. I'm not stupid, but I would love to not have to be in that conversation for him next year. I want to be, much closer to the playoffs than the first overall draft pick. It's just what we need to do. We got to make that move finally.
Yeah.
So
start moving the needle the other way.
Yeah, and we have the pieces. It's just we need a couple more, and then we're good.
Yeah. And anybody that tells you like, oh man, like these draft parties and this, that, and the other thing is so much fun. It's like, then you're crazy. Like, why would you want to? Yeah, it's cool and all. But if you're doing this, it means you suck. There's a reason. Like if you're doing this, it means your team is terrible. So I don't know.
Yeah, if you're having these,
nice not to draft.
And you can still have a draft party even if you have like the 30th overall pick. You're just going to parlay that into you're just going to go from a Stanley Cup party to a draft party, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the draft parties are fun, but at the same time, it's like you don't want to, like you said, you don't want to be in that position to where you're having draft parties because you've sucked all season and you need something positive to look forward to. I'd much rather have a Stanley Cup party than a draft party.
1,000%.
Go back to the parking lot parties of '95. That was the best. I got to find, I have somewhere I have those free posters they handed out, and I have to find where the hell it is. I have them
You get it framed.
I should. That'll be the background once I got my permanent stuff set up. So.
Oh, cool, man. Yeah, dude. I'll tell you what, though. The one thing that I'm looking forward to is like when this team starts winning again. Is we've talked about this is going into the arena when it's warm outside and leaving the arena when it's warm outside. Like those April games, those May games are so much fun.
Oh yeah.
But I have a question. Just looking at Tampa Bay, right? How long do you think they're able to sustain this? Do you think we're in for this kind of like Tampa Bay is going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals for the next like 3 years, or do you think this could be like the pinnacle of where they are? Because I think the Avs have a really, really strong chance of beating them. I mean, goaltending is going to come down to it, and I don't know if Vasilevsky is just so good. I don't know if they have. I mean, I feel like they have the power to beat Vasilevsky, but I wonder if their goaltender is going to be able. Is it Kemper, right? If he's Darcy Kemper, if he's going to be able to like.
Back. That where I think could be the X factor for Colorado, depending on who's in net. I think that eventually the runs always have to end. Runs always come to an end. I mean, the Islanders did 4 in a row. Back in the 80s, that eventually came to an end. the Flyers won 2 in a row. That came to an end, and they haven't done anything since then. So that possibility is always there too. I think as long as they have Vasilevsky, they're always going to have a competitive team that's going to make the playoffs. I think it's very hard to until it's towards the end of his career. I think Vasi is, when he's on the top of his game, he's one of the hardest goalies to beat. Now there's a bit of a difference between regular season Vasi and playoff Vasi. All you have to do is get into the playoffs, and Vasilevsky kind of takes it over from there. You know, their spending could eventually come back to bite them, but they've also built a winning culture in Tampa. And let's not forget that in Florida, taxes are a little bit different, and the weather is really nice. Especially in that Tampa Bay area. So they've built this desirable place for players to go, a winning place for players to go. I think it's pretty much going to be, they've got a decent core there with, I say decent core, but with Hedman and Point, Stammer is getting up there. And he's a bit fragile physically. He tends to get hurt. And then Vasi and then Cooper, I think are key things to all that. And, eventually it will come to an end. I don't know if they eventually have to lose. And I don't know if we're going to see them in the Eastern Conference Finals, like we've done for the last couple of years.
Yeah. Here's 2 crazy stats for you. So, number one, the last time Pat Maroon lost a playoff series, he was a member of the New Jersey Devils, and they lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning. It was the last time he lost a playoff series. That's pretty wild.
I totally forgot he was with us. I totally forgot.
And then, not just that, then you have Corey Perry is in his 3rd consecutive Stanley Cup. He lost with the Dallas Stars to the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yep.
He lost with Montreal last year to Tampa Bay. So he could either
break it, or
continue his streak and lose 3 straight. But either way, man, I'm excited for the Stanley Cup Finals. I think football is different because it's football and like everybody watches everything. But I really find that like hockey, I will watch any game. I will listen to any game. That's a different thing too. Like I'm at work late some nights, in the beginning of May, and I will stay there and do what I have to do. But I'll listen to like all the playoff games. And it's like so much fun to like listen to out of market, announcers and stuff like that.
It's definitely cool.
But I mean, like playoff hockey is just such a different beast. It's so much fun to watch. I'm definitely gonna be watching the Stanley Cup Finals. I know you already said you were gonna be. So why don't we wrap it up with some predictions then? If you feeling, okay. I don't know how you're feeling about it, but.
I haven't really come up with a thought, but I'll come up with one. You want to start, or do you want me to start?
I'll go first. So
no, you go first.
I think it's gonna be a battle. Well, heart and head. That's what I always say. I think with my heart, or I think with my head. So my heart says Avalanche in 6. My head says Tampa Bay in 6.
Oof.
I think Tampa Bay 3-peats on them. But I mean, if anybody's going to break it, I think the Avalanche have a strong chance to do it. But it's not going to be a short series, even though that's what I was hoping for in the beginning.
I do not think it's going to be a short series at all. I think there's going to be an X factor with Colorado and goaltending. However, they seem to be so high powered in offense that. Vasi can be beaten. I think that you also have to consider the fact that Colorado's been off for as long as they've been off too. But Tampa was able to overcome that. And if you're going to win the Stanley Cup, you have to overcome that. But I am going to go with your same prediction. I'm going to say Colorado in 6. And the Tampa run stops this year.
I mean, it's listen. We could be dead wrong.
And
Tampa Bay wins.
We probably will
Tampa
be
Bay goes in there and sweeps.
We
them,
probably will because I think The only series I correctly predicted was the Tampa Rangers series. We've been doing predictions on Hockey Untapped for, the entirety of the playoffs, and I've only gotten one series right. And I think I've only gotten one series right, and that was the Tampa Rangers series, just because I could not pick the Rangers for the life of me.
And I'll tell you,
So,
dude, that series started off, and I was like, after game one, I was like, whatever, Tampa Bay just, they had 8 days off or 9 days off or whatever it was. They had a long stretch off. And I'm like, they put, what is it, 6 goals on Vasilevsky in that first game? And I'm
he
like,
can be beat.
oh,
That's the thing. He can be
beat for sure. And that team can be beat. It's like you just, I don't know, man. You gotta skate with them, and you gotta shut down Kucherov. You gotta shut down Stamkos, he could still do it. So I think hopefully it'll be a good one.
Yeah, that's all I hope for, is it'll be a good one. And by the time we meet again next week, next Sunday night, we'll at least have an idea how the series is going to go. Hopefully.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll be on. I think Game 3 is next Sunday night. So put the game on mute. Listen to us while the game's on, so you can hear our great voices, and still tune into the Stanley Cup Finals. Next week we should have a full slate of everyone returning off of assignment, much like Sammy and Scotty were both on assignment tonight. Beer Baron, any final thought before we close it up?
Final thought is, I just want to see a good series. I want to see a very strong, competitive series. I want to see entertaining hockey. That's it.
All right. My final thought is the next time we meet, summer has started.
Oh, yeah.
The next time we meet. So, just got an alert. Sammy will again be on assignment next week. So, Sammy's on assignment 2 weeks in a row. That's okay. We still love you, Sam. Let's all still revel in the fact that the Rangers lost. And until next time, let's go Devils.